Welcome to the first podcast of Creativity from Within. This podcast is all about unlocking your creative potential, embracing your unique voice, and taking inspired action towards your passion. In this episode, I'll be having a casual conversation with my guest, Gouveia Ferguson, who is a senior lecturer of graphic design at the Ken Gordon School of Communication in Trinidad and Tobago. And hopefully, we can help people tap into their intuition, overcome self-doubt, and trust the creative process. Whether you're an artist, writer, business owner, or dreamer, this journey is for you. Let's dive in. Hi, Julie, Gouveia Ferguson. Welcome, and thank you so much. I am honored to have you as my first guest for this podcast. And to start, I just wanted to know if you could share a personal story about discovering your own creative calling.
Okay, I would actually ask you how far back I should go, because I've been just, not to be arrogant, but I just have been creative from birth. So I'm just fast forward to when I decided, or when it kind of hit me, that I needed to get into the creative industry as what I call a graphic design operative. That's how I kind of label myself. It was while I was at Howard University. I was interning at WHMM Channel 32, with the kind of take any suggestion from my mentor, who at the time was Dr. Starmanda Bullock. I was in fine arts. So my degree was in essentially fine arts. So I did like printmaking, painting. We did a little bit of graphic design. We dabbled in it. And Star said, why don't you do your internship at HMM? Because she was like in the design industry. And it hit me. It just, once I got in there and I saw, wow, this is very exciting. It really took me on a different trajectory entirely. And it was there I said, I don't want to read. I love art and design, but I really think I want to check this graphic design out. And for me, it was just a blessing. And I've been in it ever since.
Good. And why do you think, like, you're a professor of graphic design, why do you think, as a professor, for somebody listening that's trying to get into this field now, why do you think it matters to find your creative calling, as opposed to just getting a job to get a job, or just doing what, let's say, your family wants you to do, but in your heart, that's not what you want? What advice would you give to somebody if you said, what makes it important? If you had to tell somebody.
That is a loaded question. I would first say that balance.
Yeah.
Balance. I mean, I live by balance. So I think pursuing what your heart and is telling you, or what you're passionate about. And I tell this to my students all the time. You have to really be balanced. It has to bring balance in your life. There are some people who are lucky enough or gifted enough to be able to say, I'm going to go into design and that's what I really want to do. And there are others that say, I need a paycheck. And right now, I can't trust the design mode. Why? Because it's a subjective field. So it's based on your skills and what you bring to the field. So it's based on experience and sometimes wide experience. So I can't tell a student leaving my classroom, okay, so now you just dig into graphics. I'm telling you, from the minute I see you, the first moment, I say you need to stay current. You need to do free work, a lot of free work right now, because you need to get the experience. You need to deal with clients. You need to understand the design field. And it constantly changes. When I say constantly changes, we don't only evolve as graphic designers, but we revolve. So you have to stay current. You know, you want to live and be surgically attached to all devices. Great. But you know what? Make it work for you. So follow the right people. Find out what the designers are doing out there and why. So you would have the people who get into the field and are just lucky to be able to sit back and do the design and be passionate about it. And then the others that will say, I can't really afford that right now. So freelance, because
Right.
that's one of the gifts we have. We are able to work from home. We're able to sit down and design without crossing borders. And that is, design is, I would say, one of the lower hanging fruits that you're able to dabble in and then get more excited about and then make it your career and leave. And I've actually seen that happen with students who started off, they went into to get a job to pay their bills.
Right.
They did dabble in design, and then eventually a client would say, wow, the work you're doing for me is really phenomenal. Can we hire you to do this campaign? And little by little, they left said desk job and is flying doing design, and they are completely marinated in the field of graphic design, and it's exciting and it drives you. It's a driving force when you're passionate about following your calling. And should it be graphic design and you get into it, it's like you can't wait to wake up. You have your sketch pad or sketchbook next to your bed, and a design comes to you and you stop and you sketch until you get to the tools of Photoshop, Adobe, but we use Adobe Creative Suite. So it's something that, it really does provides balance. When you also consider fulfillment, it's something that it provides fulfillment. I would say based on the different industries that are out there and what you can do, design is something that it's a really easy task to dig your fingers into if you're passionate about it. If you're getting up to go to a desk job every day, it becomes a little, I'm not saying this is for everybody.
Right.
This is not general. It could become mundane, and it doesn't really drive you. Okay, I'm getting up and I have to go to work, versus I'm going to my desk job, but this won't be it forever and ever. I'm going to follow my passion. And then vibrancy enters the equation. And it's like, I can't wait to go home and finish this design. You're waiting for transport and you're sketching, or you're thinking, your mind just doesn't stop. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's something that just keeps revolving. So it becomes, it's almost like growth personally when you follow your calling, and it's rewarding.
Right. And as to segue into my other statement or question or conversation, what I've found is a lot of people, when you talk about the word creativity, the first thing they would say is, oh, I can't draw or paint, right? And what people, or do graphics, but what I want people to understand is creativity is not necessarily integrated just with the arts, right? So how would you, again, say to somebody who, let's say, they have a nonprofit, or they want to write a book, or they just like inspiring people, in your experience and your passion for what you do, how would you tell them how would you explain creativity not just being about the arts, or how would you explain that?
That's a great question. Thank you for that question. Let me just say, this is something I deal with on a regular basis, dealing with the student population. In many of my classes, like, let me give you an example. If they come into my principles of design class and they say, Miss, let me just give you a heads up. I really not artistic, I really can't draw or paint. And I'll say, that is kind of irrelevant. I think creativity is something that we all possess on some level, and how we harness it is entirely different. It's not like graphic design comes saran wrapped as creativity. That's just one thing. And I give them two examples. A doctor. When a doctor has to perform surgery, he doesn't go into the surgery and then go, okay, so we're going to do this. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, so that comes there. No, in his mind, he's already seen it from the beginning to the end. He's already troubleshooted anything that may come in between. He has to do that kind of preparation. It's the same with design. We have to start with the concept, work our way through to the execution, figure out, and I teach creativity in 4 ways. I say preparation is key.
Good.
If it is a plumber and a plumber is coming to your house to fix something, you say, I have a leak, and the plumber is going to ask you questions. Where's the leak? What is the problem? When did it start? And so he comes prepared with the correct tools to fix that leak. That's preparation. Incubation, when you start to think, I feel like a lecturer in here.
No, that's great.
When
I
you
love
start
it.
to think about how can I best solve this design problem, or in the plumber's case, how can I best solve this plumbing problem, or in the doctor's case, how can I best complete this surgery successfully? That's incubation. And then you have what we call the eureka moment. That's illumination. That's the, I know what I'm going to do. So this is a client in graphic design. This is a client who wants to go on TikTok, but you know what? Your audience not there.
Right.
So let's think about IG, Instagram, or let's think about Facebook. Millennials go there. That's your client. That's your target market. Let's start there. Let's build it there. Or the plumber. He knows what tools to bring, what resources he needs to fix the end, to fix your plumbing issue. And then finally, you have implementation. This is the creativity process in every realm. Your implementation is right. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do the work.
Right.
So that's the creative, and it goes into every industry. I really believe, right, everybody's creative. It's not necessarily, we have some thread of it in us, how we get from point A to point B to point C. That's not just critical thinking, but it's creative thinking. And it's in our field, in graphic design is subjective. So I tell my students that all the time. I may love what you present as your assessment, but I may love it for the very same reasons that another creative director may not like it at all, because your experiences are different. There is no black and white. There is no right or wrong. There is subjectivity. It's not 1 and 1 plus 2. It's not that kind of mathematical equation. It could be 1 and 1 equals 4,062 based on my design solution. So creativity takes a role, but you have to embrace it.
But you do, but what would you say for somebody, let's say their self-esteem is not that high and they want to embrace it, but they're afraid of rejection. They're afraid of what, most of us start with asking our family members or friends for opinions. And they're afraid because of the fear of rejection, instead of them taking action, they don't do anything. Give me like 2 little tips that you would give to people that fall in that category of insecurity.
I would say, who do you ask? I would say be careful, first of all, who you ask. So it depends on who you ask. If I ask my friend or my parents or my good buddy or my sisters, they might say, oh, would I look? If we're talking design, right. Correct? Okay, well, so they might say, great, that's nice. But if I ask a professional in the field, if a student brings work to me and says, what do you think about this design? I did it for my uncle who's opening a car rental store. And I will say, okay, it's busy. What's your color? Why did you use that specific font? Tell me a little bit about the job. Tell me a little bit about your client's business. Where is it located? Who is this car rental? Is it in like a tourist place, or is it just, where is it? Is this brand new? So you have to have that conversation first before you go and present something. So I will give him a professional graphic design response. He might ask, the same student might ask his roommate, hey, this is my design. What do you think about it? Oh, that real nice boy. I love it. But he's not a professional in the field. So you have to be careful where you're going to get that quality response. That's one. And 2, regarding like, self-esteem and stuff, that is a little harder, because when you do design work and you put it out there, all bets are off. if somebody passes by, you are standing at the bus stop and somebody passes by and the bus drives by with your design on it and a complete stranger next to you goes, wow, that's some serious impact. You start to feel good. You're not going to say,
Right.
yeah, that's my work. Maybe you
No,
will,
right.
but maybe you will. That's my work. But what if they say, oh my God, why would you even put that trash on a bus? Then you start to kind of feel that's my design. You might ask, excuse me, what is wrong with it? And that's something that I can't say enough that you need to really work on your personal strength, work on exercises that might build your self-esteem, stay in circles that are confident, follow the right designers who will lift you in the field. When I say follow online, on social media, I would tell you some, but I wouldn't want to say
No, it's
I
fine.
said this one and not the others. Own, which is what I tell students all the time, your sanctum sanctorium, which is your design space. Own it and safeguard it. Tether yourself to things that are positive and uplifting. Don't stay in that quagmire of negativity. For designers, and I know a lot of them, myself included, it's a very hard meant you will get it all the time. It's your work, even though you've done it for a client. The client may be the one being, very negative about the work and constantly beating you down. I would normally say, well, tell me what works for you. Find ways to turn it around. Tell me what you find that doesn't work for you. What about the design? Is it the color? Is it the composition? Is it the type? Is it the image I used? Ask question and say, no, I'm just asking because I want to give you work that, you're proud of and you think will go out. And then you will have the clients who come back and say, wow, the work that you gave was so phenomenal. We got a lot of feedback. We got a lot of people and people are calling me and saying, who did this campaign for you? Where can I reach that person? But once you put yourself out there, Roxanne, in a field like this, in graphic design, you're going to get people who will give they will judge you.
I know, and I've had a lot of that because I was once a graphic designer. And I think too, for me, I used to take a lot of it personally, but I stopped when I decided, because graphic design goes into so many different segments, when I decided to go to the nonprofit and I started working as the specialist for the library, it was different. My ego wasn't as involved into the work because they wanted this or that. And it depends. So we all have to find like our footing, where we belong and roll with that.
Sometimes you have to change the narrative.
You do.
The negativity and the toxicity,
Right. You have to change it for yourself. And I think a lot of people shy away from the idea of gifting their talent or their creativity. And to me, from my experience, gifting is what helps to build community, because I've found like since I've been painting, I give away a lot of my paintings. And a lot of people might say, oh, why you do? No, you do it because you want to build community, one, and two, you want to let people know that you thought of them enough to share this gift with them, So it's important to give and to self-reflect, and for those of us that could do therapy, I always tell people therapy is important for everybody on this planet. And for those of us that can't, it's important to, like you said earlier, find the right people to be in your corner. Find your village. And, when we hear the word village, we think, oh my gosh, we're the 10 people. But sometimes village could be just one person that has your back, And what the other question I want to ask you is, how would you, what if you had to tell people, whether it be a graphic designer, an artist, whoever, what would you suggest one small step that people can do today? Nothing big and grand, but one small step to kind of get those creative juices flowing, whether you want to write a book, build a box, gift wrap, work at the mall, whatever you consider creative. What's one small step that somebody can start that doesn't require a big investment or anything like that?
Experiment. I would say definitely get out of your comfort zone, because once you are in your comfort zone, you tend to sometimes, I'm not saying for everyone, become a little complacent.
Yes.
Get out of your comfort zone and open your mind. I tell my students usually respond to that with, oh, just think outside the box. There is no box. I didn't put you in a box and I didn't put me in a box. So
Right.
there is no box. Open your mind and try stuff. And not necessarily things that you think, okay, so I'm going to do baking, you know, because I always like to bake. Well, you know what? Try it and notice how you feel while you're doing it, because that is the important step. Because if you're going to try something and then it's not really satisfying, then that's not what you need to do. So try different things, and not necessarily those things that you would necessarily you would go to as like a knee-jerk reaction. I'm going to do this because my mom did. I'm going to do this because my sister did it. Do things that are new and interesting and intriguing, because then you might it might connect. But you have to be patient. So don't do it for like 2 seconds and then think, nah, well, that didn't work. I have so many friends, not just necessarily students, who've come to me and say, you know, you're always talking this graphic design. I'm in accounting. I'm an accountant. She works in New York, and she said, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to get the software and I'm going to try to dabble in it, just self-taught, nothing, you know. And then she said, I did a couple courses online and they were real fun. And now I'm doing real work in graphic design, and I'm actually thinking of hanging up my accounting cap because it excites me.
Yeah.
You know, so you try something. And like I said, not necessarily what you think you should. It might be something you don't do, and look at and you know, Kay ended up with this whole new career that she's trying to now balance. And just be patient, hang in there.
Good, good. And how would you, Julie, what would you say to older people? So let's say senior citizens, people over 62, that they had their career, they raised their families, they're empty nesters, and they want to do something. They want to follow, like you said, that thing that ignites that fire inside of you, regardless of what it is. Like, what would you say to that person so that they can just start? Remember, we're talking about an older person in today's society, right? What, if you had to say 2 sentences to them, what would you say to them?
Be brave. I would say 2 words. I would say
Okay.
be brave. When you're trying to awaken that creativity within, it's especially for an older person, and I know they would be a bit hesitant. Oh God, what am I going to do with that? No, you know, I mean, there are so many young people in the field. You're not taking anybody's job. This is just something that you're doing to bring you joy. It's rewarding. It's something that is a delicious difference versus what you used to do, or whatever career you were in. And I'm not sure if you specifically talking about graphic design here, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be just painting, or well, that's actually my first love is fine arts. That's where my degree started. And it might grow into something. You may get into different circles that, they're doing the little painting, they're sitting on in the savannah or the park and they're painting trees or Tai Chi. I find that it has a lot of rewards to it. The different arts, martial arts. I'm not saying go and become a Taekwondo black belt.
Right.
That mightn't be
Exactly.
the best thing for you right now, but Tai Chi might be something.
Exactly.
So just be brave and don't let
Yeah.
anybody talk you out of it. Don't say, "Oh, mom, gran, what are you going to, why are you doing that
Yeah.
now? You'll hurt yourself." You have to be brave and just take that step. Be brave.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, your insight, and giving such good advice about being creative and knowing that creativity is not just about painting or drawing, but creativity is what ignites that fire, that passion inside of you. And if you had to give like one closer, say one thing to somebody listening that might be on the fence about just taking that plunge, what would you say?
Be balanced. I think, when we breathe in, we have to breathe out. If something goes up, usually it comes back down. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. There must be balance. Then just consider being balanced in whatever you do, in all the many things that you do. My one word would be balance.
Amazing. But before I close, could you just say what you mean by being balanced to the person listening that doesn't fully get it?
Okay. So when I say balance, I think that there's a lot of stuff happening, and this is me explaining balance. I just had one word. The you might be like, I asked for one word. Are you going into a full lecture? No, I'm sorry. It's in my DNA. I just can't start a lecture.
It's okay.
So my when I say be balanced, balance, that's my one word. It's in life, there's a lot of stuff that comes to us. Life happens, people say life is lifing. And sometimes you'll get the hills and you'll get the valleys. And sometimes you're going up the hill and things are going fabulous and you get to the top and you're enjoying it. And then something happens and you're like, you go right back down into the valley. That's balance. To have a hill, we need a valley. You understand? To have a mountain, we need the valley. So it's not only going to be
up or
this
down.
fabulous trajectory that you just keep shooting into the joyous realm of life. So you understand, once you understand that, and at the same time that you're joyous and it's all pixie dust and sprinkled rainbows, that's great. Blue skies, but at some point, understand that that's what happened, embrace it, because I can't say it won't last forever. Your valley might go very low, very fast. I'll give you a joke. My students call me Alice. My name is Julie. So sometimes they'll walk into my class and take one look at me and say, Alice, Julie, because they say, they reference the rabbit hole. And it says, miss, you go down that rabbit hole and you are terrifying. We come in here and you're like reading us the riot act. And so we need to know who we're facing, because I'm Gemini. God help us all, Geminis. And they'll say, my twins are Julie, who is the combustible energy, fun-loving one. And then there's Alice, who is dark in that rabbit hole and very serious. And for me, that's balance. I can't always be combustible energy.
Yeah, I love it. So thank you so much. Anytime. This was amazing. I love you.
Welcome. I love
you. And thanks for being my first guest on this podcast. And I'm looking forward to keeping in touch with you.
And I'm looking forward to stalking your remaining podcast.
Thank you. Love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.